time. Any questions or any follow-up thoughts from folks? Okay. Well, you will get to know, if you do pursue this process, you will get to know that rubric very well. But we'll go ahead and walk you through an example of what this might look like if you choose to go forward and create a video submission.
So I'll go ahead and play this example. It's right around 5 minutes long, and it's just one example. So I think that's an important point to note, that there are, for every person in the room right now, there are that many ways that you could do this, probably exponentially or multiplied exponentially. So, please know this is just one example, but we'd love to invite you to click on the rubric that we just showed you, the design and implement an online learning environment. And Katie or John, maybe you could throw that in the chat if you don't mind, and just kind of follow along as you listen to this, because we're gonna talk about, what did you notice in the video? What do you wonder? And then, does this submission rise to the level of a micro credential and designing and implementing an online learning environment based on what's in front of you in the rubric? Okay, so give everybody 1 second to do that. Make sure you have access to it. Thanks, Katie.
Sure. Just make sure the link came through. It's also linked in the agenda as well.
Okay.
The 3 courses I took were assessment tools for the classroom, enhancing instruction for all learners, and digital tools for classroom collaboration. Though the objectives for each of the courses varied, the common themes included engaging students in learner-centered experiences and weaving collaboration and digital tools into how students access and produce evidence of their learning. The artifact I'm sharing as evidence of my learning is a module of learning I created for my 8th grade math students. Based upon what I learned in the assessment tools for the classroom, I began planning the module by beginning with the performance task. This was the first time creating a performance task, and I used Wiggins and McTighe's GRASPS model. While I've done projects with my students before, this format challenged me to think about an authentic context, and I noticed both an energy from students as they engaged in the work, as well as an increase in the depth of what students were able to produce. So this is the performance task. There was just a different energy from students once they knew that they had a role as a management consultant. We had a lot of conversations around what a management consultant did, and then they had to advise a local business as well. The audience was somebody that the kids could relate to. They all have a candy store at the store that they've been to. And a lot of them have seen their parents and their jobs be impacted by COVID. So there was a lot that they were able to relate to. The other thing as part of that GRASP model is what students need to be successful. And so for students, the other thing that I noticed is when they had success defined right at the outset, they knew what they were working toward. And in the past, I haven't always given that to students. And so, that was a real difference. I wonder, I made this rubric for them, and I wonder what would be different if perhaps I built that with students next time. I also noticed a difference in what students were able to produce. I noticed some of my typically quote unquote high level students were really challenged when they had to make their thinking visible and share beyond the correct answer. Conversely, students that sometimes struggle with math concepts took on leadership roles in breakout groups and internalized a real sense of ownership. Leveraging an authentic performance task gave me insight into my students as people and as learners that I simply didn't have before this. Also, because of what I learned in assessment tools for the classroom, I realized I needed regular checks for understanding rather than waiting until the end of a unit to identify learner areas for growth. Tools like Padlet and Flipgrid, as well as collaborative tools like Google Docs, which I learned about in digital tools and classroom collaboration, made for a powerful combination. I was able to adjust and personalize the support I was providing students because I knew where students were relative to the learning objectives throughout the module. Oftentimes, because of the collaboration taking place, students were able to support one another in ways I hadn't considered. My favorite example of this occurred during the Flipgrid recordings. Students created in response to the resources shared on COVID-19 and the global economy. Student videos reflected real connections and understanding about how COVID-19 was impacting our economy. Over 85% of my students, however, went beyond simply recording their own response and also recorded a reply to the video of their peers. Comments like, "When you said this, it made me think about that," and "I had never thought about the connection between the economy and the supply chain until I listened to your post." Stuff that I never imagined would come out of my student's mouth did. I've always known the collaboration was important, but it took me seeing and hearing how much deeper students' learning was to truly wrap my head around the impact that how I designed learning experiences could either contribute or detract from students' ability to grow as collaborators. I've been talking with some of my grade level peers about how to incorporate what I've learned in these courses as we plan our next unit. Thank you.
All right, so what did you notice? What do you wonder when you listen to that example? And you're welcome to either, you turn on your mic and share, or to record that in the chat.
This is Andy. I noticed how she did a great job of reflecting on her learning, and she talked about how she got to that. What were some of the resources that helped her in her new learning? I thought that was very effective.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, specific references to classes or to learning, and that reflection piece, definitely important. Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, students who struggled had a chance to show their skills. So different entry points for students to show what they know, and a lot of different examples for how students were able to demonstrate their learning. Absolutely. So the finishing first, that's an interesting concept, right? Is that comment about students who always get the right answer or know the right answer, that if you had to struggle, there's value in that, and ensuring engaging and making sure that students have opportunities to have that productive struggle. Yeah, great catch, Anna, that she had some wonderings, right? That it wasn't a destination. Her learning was a journey, and there was continued growth to look forward to. Yeah, absolutely, Jackie. So this person could see that there was still a next level, and was worried or focused on that next level of growth. If you were to think through capacity, student outcomes, mindset, and network, was there an area where this teacher could have done more reflecting, or where her submission could have been stronger? Yeah, Gail, that's a great point. So one of the things that comes up or that came up in the fall was the privacy concern. And so folks not wanting to either share student work or share a video of students in the classroom. So, this is one way around that, is kind of giving direct quotes. This person used direct quotes to describe what students had said. But I agree, it would have been nice to see some examples of student work and what they had produced and created, maybe without names or something like that, Gail. Yeah, so several of you, Anna and Rachel and Yvonne, have all identified the network piece. There was like a kind of a throwaway comment at the end, but you're right, that's definitely something that this person could have beefed up and could have talked more about. Any other reflections or wonderings you have?
I really like the examples of student outcomes, specific examples. At first, she talked about energy, and I was like, what does that mean? Energy. They're like, that's great, but what does that mean? And then talking about students, like 80, like great data point, 85% commented on another student's work. And then kind of paraphrasing what some of those deeper comments were about. I really appreciated those examples.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Okay. I see Gail typing.
I'll just say it instead. So I was just curious if would this be an example of a time when this would be returned back to the person who submitted it, and she would be requested to add more or talk more about network, or is it just it's done, it's okay, she passed?
So great question. That's a terrific question. So what would you all say? Does this submission rise to the level of a credential based on what you see here?
It's not a trick question. There's no right or wrong answer.
No, there's not. This is totally a made up example that we created. So there's not a right or wrong answer. So Katie, since you did the training for our assessor, how would you have coached our assessor through this example?
Yeah, it is a tricky example because she's very strong in other areas and showed a really strong evidence of learning, made great references. It may be just it may have been just could you resubmit and talk a little bit more about the network, because she got it, she referenced it, it passed, but there may have been a little more information to provide around expanding her learning.
So, as we have more and more examples of these, that calibration piece is helpful, right? And we become more calibrated around some of these as well. But we are looking at, to the point of the assessor piece, we are looking for people to be strong across these. So it's not a matter of like, if you get 2 of the 4, then it passes. Like, we are really looking for evidence of all of these 4 categories. So just something to keep in mind. Jennifer, affect. I'm glad you said that. So this is something we recorded, and it was recorded at like 11 o'clock at night. And so I do apologize. You're right that it could definitely have been a more engaging and compelling audio. But that's sort of the reason behind that. But you're exactly right. So thanks for picking up on that. All right. Any questions that this brings up as you think through and see an example in action? Okay. Well, these are the important dates. So, one of the things that we learned from folks in the last cohort was that, we had this launch and then they sort of, I think, felt like we didn't have as much contact with them until the submission process. So one of the things we're really trying to do this cohort is provide some additional support. This is optional support, but we are invited to really take part in some of these webinars. And I'm going to turn it over to John Ross if you want to talk a little bit about those webinars that you'll be facilitating.
All right, thanks, Julie. Yeah, so we are going to offer at least a series of 3 webinars throughout the period starting next week. I'll do one on Tuesday and Thursday, and the goal of next Tuesday and Thursday is to connect people across the region that are working on similar things or who are at different or similar grade levels. We found last year that sometimes people in elementary school didn't relate to some of the middle school examples or whatever, and so they would have liked another elementary compadre to work with. So we'll try and do some of that next week on Tuesday and Thursday at 4 o'clock. And Melinda will send out invitations with links. And then a month later, we will talk about collecting evidence, and we'll actually go through different ways you can collect evidence. So there are some questions about what do you do if you can't videotape students, or how can I reflect if I don't want to be on the camera? So we can talk through some of that, as well as share some of the examples you're coming up with and provide support to each other. And then finally, during the third one will be kind of reflective, but it's also the third one, which is the third week of May, which is the week before everything is due, also on Tuesday and Thursday. The goal is to make sure you feel really comfortable about getting everything submitted. So we are going to review, we're going to reflect, but really, I just want to make sure that you felt supported, that you got everything you did, and of course, that you needed to submit your evidence. Anytime throughout the whole period, if you need any support, you have our emails and you can contact us and we can set up another meeting.
Thanks, John. Melinda has been great so far, and we'll continue to send weekly emails with just any updates that you need, or so we'll try to make sure you have the information that you need to be successful. We'll also try, if you're not able to attend these webinars, try to pull out a couple of key highlights to share those with you as well. And then the week of June 14th, we will have some open office hours, again, totally optional, but just if there's anything that comes up that you want to touch base about, you're more than welcome to drop into those. Final submissions for all of your evidence are June 21st. So you can use any platform you like. We had people use Screencastify or Screencast-O-Matic or iPhone videos, whatever format you would like. You can submit it in that format, and then I'll show you how to do that in 1 second. By July 1st, you will know if you have been awarded the micro-credential, or if you need to apply your feedback and resubmit. And Melinda, I'm going to ask you to repeat what you said last night about the learning, and that it not being a bad thing if you need to resubmit, because I thought that was really helpful.
So one piece of this is about it being meaningful learning. And it is not a fail if you have to resubmit. In fact, 3/4 of our people from the first go around had to resubmit, because it's the big piece about this is about reflection. So knowing a lot of you personally, and probably guessing a lot of you in this group entirely who are participating, might be tending towards the side of perfectionist. We want you to know, asking you to use the feedback to resubmit is not a sign of failure or anything. It's more just we need some more evidence to ensure that we are holding the integrity of the micro-credential to what it should be. So I know I didn't say that the same as I did last night, but
that was even better.
Okay, good.
We will, to that end, we learned a lot from the participants in the fall, and we did send out a survey and had some focus groups, and their feedback was really instrumental in creating the experience that we have. And so we will send out a survey to any participant. We'd really love it if you would complete that and just continue our learning as we go through this process. And then, so once you hear back, if you are somebody who has to resubmit, resubmissions would be due July 16th, and then the final credentials would be awarded by the end of July. So that's kind of our time frame. Before you know, go on, does anyone have questions about that time frame or any of the dates listed here? Okay. Well, as we mentioned, I mean, you're welcome to email us at any time. You're going to submit the evidence to Stephanie Hebden, who's our assessor, and the mc@remc.org is the email that you'll submit to. And again, we just need your video. So even if you have examples of student work and things like that, you can keep those and include them in the video, but those aren't things that you have to include with your video. It's the video, 5 to 7 minute video is the only thing you're submitting. Ongoing questions, Melinda Waffle is really the point person driving this work, and so please reach out to her if you have questions. And if you haven't already signed up for microcredentials and you know, it's something you're willing to give a go, we'd love for you to be involved. Please do email Melinda to sign up. And I think that's all of the, you know, what we wanted to talk about, but we really would like to invite any questions that you have. And, you know, how do we get you to yes? Is there anything else that would be helpful to talk through?
Well, can I just clarify, Julie?
Yeah.
The emailing me to sign up is when you tell me that I'm working towards this micro credential, so that we have that in record, and then maybe can use that to connect people working on the same micro credential together. So
Perfect.
Just a little clarity.
Thank you.
Which about half, I should also say, about half of you on this meeting have already done that. I just went through and checked.
And Melinda will share that with John so he knows how to connect him too.
This is Andy. I think the only concern I had was that if I'm taking REMC courses and I'm required to take 3 of them and I missed a window to start one in April, that, you know, it means that I have May and June to take those, or take them all in May. And that, I guess that was just a concern I had, if I need to get 3 of those in, if I can get them in within the time frame that's being provided.
So Andy, that question has been asked several times. Some people are going to try it to see if they're able to fit it in around their work obligations. But what we have left is I have several people who have decided they just can't fit it in, but they want to work towards the micro credential, figuring there will be another window after this. So people who have decided, you know what, I just can't fit it in this June, have let me know if they want to continue getting communications right now or not, or if they want to just work towards the micro credential on their own with the courses and then watch for the next window. So I actually have a list of people who are like, you know what, update me in summer of 21 where it is. I'm going to just work on the classes towards it right now. But I don't want any more communication, but I have a little guidance in what courses I should pick in the next several months. So it's really up to you if you feel you can fit those in or not, since we are past the start of the April courses. I will say, if you're going to try the goal-driven growth, reflection, and refinement, actually we added 3 courses. So any of them, there are enough courses that you can do it now, because the student engagement and collaboration, we added 3 more for May. So if you're a brave soul and want to try getting 3 courses in May and June and doing it, you're welcome to, but that's totally your call.
All right, thanks. Well, there were a few courses that around using Google Classroom and some things like that I missed the start of, and now it's like, okay, am I going to be able to get in what I need within this timeline? I must have missed something. I hadn't seen the timeline before. So it was like, whoa, that's pretty quick. So I just wasn't paying attention. Thanks.
Sure. So Rachel, I see your question. The video is only 5 to 7 minutes. What if it's over? So, you know, I think if you're a little bit over that, I would say that's probably fine. We do try to have that be a gauge because we'd like, our criteria have been set up to, give everybody that equal playing field. And it'll just be a matter of being really intentional about what you want to pull out from your reflection. So, I don't know if any of my colleagues, Katie or John, want to say anything additional about that, but I do think the intentionality around what you want to say and share is going to be important to make sure that that timeline is adhered to.
Yeah, I would definitely agree to keep it within that timeline. And we won't accept any extra attachments or documents, or everything kind of needs to be shared and shown within the 5 to 7 minutes. So that, yeah, like Julie said, everybody has their chance to show their evidence in the same timeline.
The other thing is when you get a micro-credential, when you earn it, it'll come to you in digital format and it will be tagged with your video so that anybody that you share your credential with will be able to see your evidence. And so that's the other piece is the video is what's going to be tagged. So. Other questions?
I have one question, just because I'm doing this, I'm watching this on my phone and I've lost my internet and I had a kid that was not cooperating while I was trying to start out. Where will we be able to get the video recording of this? Because I don't have like a chat label on my phone here to find it. And I would like to watch the video through without interruptions.
Stephanie, I will be sending that out in my Sunday update that I send.
Awesome.
So the weekly update for next week will include a link to the recording. It'll either be this one or last night's, or maybe both.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm going to put in the chat one more time just the agenda in case anybody came in a few minutes after we started, so that you have all the links to everything that we shared with you today. Any other questions? Well, please consider it an open door or open invitation to reach out anytime with questions as they arise. But we're really appreciative of you all for being willing to, your spirit of adventure and being willing to give this a try. We really see a lot of benefit for educators in Michigan, and we're excited for being able to watch this grow. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody for being here today.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
So just to update